First of all, I would like to thank OGTC for inviting us and having us here, and thank you, sir, for a very kind introduction. Got very esteemed people as co-speakers here, and obviously, all of you who have come here to listen to this subject. Most of the conferences that we go to, I was here last year in this conference, and I had the privilege of speaking on the first day. And that was before the fashion show, so it was full. There were a lot of people. And I really didn't expect all these seats to fill up in today's session. I thought, there'll be very few people for this particular session, but very, very happy to see so many people here. Just to start with, I've been asked by Mr. Kesar today to speak about, this whole carbon footprinting and climate change initiative that OGTC has taken. And, we have played a part in that. So I would like to begin by, just asking, how many of the people present here have been part of this project over the last 8 months? If you could just put your hands up so I know. All right, okay. So quite a few. Oh, yes, Safiya, you were the first. So, okay. And how many of you are from companies within OGTC who are yet to do this initiative? Okay. So yeah, so that gives me an idea, and I'm assuming that the rest of them are neutral people from student fraternity and things like that, right? And consultants, faculties. Okay, all right. Okay. So thank you everybody, and we'll talk about the carbon management initiative that has been taken by OGTC. We have had tremendous support from members within OGTC as well as from GIZ. GIZ is a German body which has supported this project in terms of part sponsoring this initiative. And what I'll do is I'll just tell you what I will try to cover here because there are people from the academia as well as some people who are not been involved in this project. So I'll give you a little bit of background of what this is, and then I'll tell you about this project that was done. Okay, so quickly getting into textile industry and the environment. Before this session started, we were having a discussion, and it gets into the eye pretty soon. We heard about Tirupur going zero discharge yesterday by Mr. Shaktivel. And that was done because it had to be done. There was no choice, right? There are innumerable examples, especially in China, where rivers have turned green and things like that. They had to move factories, shut down quite a few of them. It affects a lot of livelihoods, etc. So inherently, textile industry has a large component of unorganized small sector units, medium sector units, and things like that, where they might not necessarily have, they might have a lot of entrepreneurial spirit, but they might not have the understanding or, the capacity. By capacity, I mean the knowledge capacity to really, do something about it, or, have a capital expenditure around it. So major use of fertilizer and pesticide that starts right from the supply chain. So, look at the cotton side of it. Yesterday, Mr. Chamberlain was, talking about the organic cotton initiative, and the fact that 10% of their consumers are willing to pay $4 extra for something that's made out of organic cotton as compared to a regular cotton. So there is a market, and that market has grown. Till around 5 years back when I used to be in the UK, this market size used to be around 3 to 4%. And yesterday I was surprised when Mr. Chamberlain, who's from ANC, a very large retailer, saying that it's 10% of their total customer base. So which is very big, and it's growing and I had a discussion after that with him where he said that it's growing at a pace of close to 18 to 19%, every 2 years. So which is significant. And that's why you see that investment coming in from these guys, which I'll also talk about. There are solvents and detergents, especially, at the dyeing process side and things like that, toxic chemicals, petrochemicals. So there are a host of issues. And you look at energy consumption. I'm saying, forget the environment for the moment, but even if you look at it from a cost perspective, today the power has, it's become a crisis situation where people have to run DG sets. DG sets typically cost you around, anywhere from 12 to 18 rupees depending on where you are per unit, as compared to the grid electricity price, which would be anywhere from 4 rupees to 8 rupees. And combine that with, the environmental impacts of, who wants a DG set running outside their place. So these are some of the issues why it's become important. For those of you, who are not yet conversant, so carbon dioxide, and I'm trying to simplify it as much as I can. And the greenhouse gases, what they cause is they cause the atmosphere to warm. Okay, and there are various gases that come into it, like N2O, you got CO2 being the largest in proportion. That's why people usually call it as carbon footprint, and all the other gases are converted into equivalent of carbon, right? So this is it talks about the greenhouse effect. I'm going to be having this slide in the deck, which OGTC I think is going to be distributing a CD, which will have this slide deck as well. So I'll really not talk about this, but just to simplify it. So what is a carbon footprint? And then I'll come to why it is becoming important. Well, carbon footprint is basically total set of these greenhouse gas emissions that as an organization or as an entity or as a product group that you emitted while making of that product. Okay, so let's keep it very simple as of now. There are many other concepts like life cycle carbon and things like that. We'll really not get into it. But this is what is commonly known as a carbon footprint. Okay. And here I put there a word energy just before we started. It's easier for us to relate things in terms of what we really understand. So we understand electricity bills, we understand fuel bills. So take this as a proxy for the amount of fuel that you use. Okay, I remember when we wanted to start this project for OGTC, like Sir said before we started, and even during his inaugural speech, that this is people do things only if it is legally required. Who wants to do a carbon footprint when nobody is asking for it? Why would you want to do it? There's no reason to do it. But it is in, so every time, I get very pessimistic about it. And when you come to these conferences, and yesterday when I spoke with Mr. Chamberlain, who's, a significant buyer, and I've spoken to a few others, when you talk to them, you suddenly realize that, these guys are way ahead of the curve and they are preparing for that future and they're getting ready for it. Okay, and what happens is we typically are very reactive. So only when it hits us, where, Walmart sends you a questionnaire saying, okay, are you doing your carbon footprint, yes or no? As of now, they're going to only ask you yes or no. Do you report to CDP, yes or no? Okay, so they're going to be asking this. But then, what's the pointer? The pointer is that today they have asked you yes or no. Tomorrow they are going to ask you to report it as well, right? When the social thing came and when so many other regulations and audits started, nobody really thought that it's going to come, and now it's become a headache. It's become a headache. It's become very cumbersome. I know, few of my colleagues who are in sustainability profession and textile companies, they are sick of it. They have these customers and auditors and these people coming. And I was in Indore in one of the factories, and she showed me a list. They have a total of 208 audits in a year. So a year only has 365 days. And if you cut out the Sundays, there's no time left. So they have to actually have a team of 3-4 people who are doing only this and nothing else. So before it becomes a botheration, it's better to, be systematic about it. Things have changed and times have changed. So it's better to have a system in place and be ready and try to be proactive. Yesterday I was hearing about somebody, people are getting very patriotic about, why people are investing in Bangladesh and Vietnam and not India and stuff like that. But I think, we need to, and today we saw, Germany has a good share of the market as well. So if we can do things right, there is a market out there which is willing to pay a premium, or which is willing to, make do with a day's delay, maybe not more than that, on your shipments, if you can promise them ethically manufactured goods. Okay, by promise them, what I mean is, not just whitewashing it when an audit is there, but really being serious about it, reporting to entities like CDP and, WRI and or GRI. There are various agencies. So if you start doing that, I think the respectability of the way we work changes. This whole supply chain concept is going to be very, very big going forward. Okay, so this, I think, is, one of the big initiatives that's going to hit you guys, like Mr. Chamberlain had said yesterday. He said that, become part of it. He also mentioned that there are various tools that are going to come in, which are going to be available free of cost to everyone. Okay, so there's no cost to all this. So Sustainable Apple Coalition, which was founded, and there are certain, Indian companies as well who are part of the founding members of this coalition. And you can see a lot of names there, which will give you an idea of who's who being involved in this. Okay. And what they are going to be doing is they're going to be coming out with indexes. So most probably what will happen is a lot of things that you do today in multiple audits or multiple requirements around CSR, social, sustainability, etc., might all come under one umbrella of Sustainable Apparel Coalition. Okay, and I'm on the committee on, which forms the ASTM standards for sustainability, which are still under formation. There's a big debate going on whether we should have multiple standards, because, when ASTM comes out, then you will have Walmart and, all those guys in the US supporting the US requirements. And then these guys, come out with something of their own, which is a little more Europe-centric than US-centric. So it becomes a problem for the vendors like us. Okay. But in all probability, this is going to be by far very, very big. In ASTM meetings that I attended last month in the US, the talk right now is that it's better to partner with Sustainable Apparel Coalition and come out with a common standard so that it does not hurt the industry. Okay. So I would say, and then this is basically going to consist of carbon footprint, water footprint. Like Mr. Chamberlain said, water footprint network is going to be a big, part of how it should be done. They will tell you the methods. There will be tools available for you. Okay. And I think yesterday there was a lady who asked, we are very small units here in India. There, various clusters. And we can't be affording, buying all this stuff. So most of this is going to be available free of cost. Okay, so it's all about adapting it, having a change in mindset that yes, we need to do things the right way. So this is, I think, I just wanted to bring this up because this is going to be the next big requirement which is going to come. And my request is that, the earlier we adapt and the earlier we adopt it, it is better for us, and it will drive it towards a point where you only have to fill up one form and all your audit requirements are done. You don't have to do multiple things. Okay, so GAP is one of the, and what's happened with GAP, right? There have been various violations and trouble that has been created. So they have really come out with so they are one of the founding members. They've understood that they have to do this. There's no choice. And you see that influence is a big part. So direct control is what is within their realm of things. And I'll show you the next slide, which is, okay. So I wanted to, bring this up. So 4% for timberland, 4% of total emissions for making a shoe actually comes from their own operations. Okay, because they themselves are actually not manufacturing anything. Most of it is outsourced, so they buy from a vendor. So you look at that 96%, it's from inbound products. It's from transportation of those inbound products. It's from vendors who are supplying them in Pakistan, in Bangladesh, in India. So that's where the big chunk is. So even if they were to do anything within their country or within their operations, will it really make a difference? No, so they have to then report to their shareholders and their stakeholders and NGOs and etc. How do they show reduction? The only way to show reduction is to pass this liability or to pass this risk or to pass this requirement down to people like you. Right? So if you guys cut down, they can show reduction, a significant. So, in that 96% you do a reduction, it will show. In that 4% you really can't do much. So that's what I wanted to highlight, that And those of you who were fortunate enough to hear what Mr. Chamberlain said, I think, that's where it is getting to eventually. So similarly, I think this has become very popular, Mark and Spencer's Plan A, and now there are business and Harvard. I saw a case in the Harvard Business Review. There's something where they have said that while it started off as good CSR and sustainability related stuff, it has actually ended up in a huge cost saving kind of a scenario for them. So there are a lot of benefits that come out of it. And when I used to be in the UK and we were working with we were doing some work for this Mark and Spencer's Plan A and Tesco's. One of the things that they said, that their CFO, the finance people, they do look at cost very, very, microscopically, and there is a big requirement of reducing energy cost and transportation cost and things like that. Okay, and then there were these sustainability guys who came and said that, okay, this is our supply chain. This is where, for a t-shirt, this is where cotton comes from. This is where it is getting manufactured. This is how it is shipped. This is how it comes to our store. This is how people buy it, and this is how people dispose it. So they took the entire supply chain and they started looking at that. And they said, can we fix cost and energy consumed at each of these points? So they started matching the financial data with the supply chain carbon data. Okay, and what they got is that maybe they should relook at the way and the places from where they are procuring stuff, number one. Number two, they should relook at warehousing and transportation. So there was an optimization required in terms of consolidating warehouses, in terms of changing the way, the transportation works. Should it be hub and spoke? Those kinds of decisions were taken. So there's a lot that's going on there. And those guys have got legal commitments. Unlike in India, there is no commitment on water right now. So it's only because water is becoming scarce and your stakeholders around your factories or, people start making noises. That is when, so what happened to Coke in Kerala, for example, right? When the groundwater started depleting, the villagers started saying that we don't have water. So these are the issues. And then, if you take a reactive step, like what Coke did in terms of, saying they had a big campaign and they said, we have become water neutral. Now, how can Coke become water neutral? Is by taking water out of Kerala and doing a rainwater harvesting project in Rajasthan, in Jaisalmer. Now, it helps nobody, right? So I'm saying it's better to have the right strategies in place and, read the market condition and what's going to come and do these projects. And trust me, those who have done it, and those who are aware of how it was done, it's not very difficult. And it's not expensive as well. Okay, so talking about the project that we have done here at OGTC. And I think it's a very proud thing where I can say that at least in the small sector, where, small companies are there, it was a commendable thing. It's a first of a kind in the world. Nowhere in the world such a project has been done with SMEs. Small units who come together under a association umbrella. So I have done speeches with the owners of, the company to tell them why they should do it. And by doing this, what will happen? Can they rebrand themselves? I think, so there are a lot of other issues which I'll touch upon, but the importance of it was felt, and the first of a kind in the world project was done, where under an association umbrella, these people got together and they said, okay, let's do it for each of the unit. And that's how it was taken forward. So it was spearheaded by the executive board of OGTC, people whom we all know, Mr. Tony, Mr. Kesar, a great supporter, Mr. Mehta, MM Exports, Mr. Ajit Vasu, his son Mandeep, everyone. So as of now, in OGTC, there are 24 or 25 members, correct me, sir, if I'm wrong. And out of that, half of them agreed to participate in this project. And, like you all know, we saw the last session, right? It's a democratic place. So there are some people who will say no, some people will say yes, some people who will fence, sit on the fence and see, let's, inko kar lene do, baad mein apan dekhenge. So, those kinds of things happen. But, if 50% of the people said yes, we said we'll go ahead and do this project. And I'm hoping and I'm very sure that after having seen what these people have achieved and how they have achieved it and why they would have an edge, because now we are trying to give them a benchmarking data, because our company has got access to some data from various parts of the world, and we can today tell them that, okay, this is where you stand, and they can start communicating this to their clients. So I think there is a big benefit for all those who are fence sitting to actually jump in and get this done, so that OGTC can say there is 100% compliance, at least by the OGTC group of companies. And being part of this first of a kind initiative where a small cluster with small units actually got together to do these kinds of projects. So GIZ, like I said, they are the international licensing body from the German Federation of Ministry of Economy. They are the ones who supported this project. They are the ones who have part funded this project for the units, and I think it's a great thing that I think without their support it would have been difficult. And the other thing is, when a body like this associates with the project, what happens is they try to push a lot of standards, the right methods, and things like that. Otherwise a body like that usually doesn't associate itself with or funds any project. So they were a great supporter and a great checkpoint. So they have actually had review meetings every 2 weeks on who is doing what and things like that. And this is where I come from. So we did the project for OGTC and the members. Okay. So why was this project done? I've given you a brief idea of why it was done. It was a democratic discussion around 4 or 5 rounds, and then finally I think they had a closed door thing and they said, okay, how many of you want to participate? And OGTC has had a good track record of doing various CSR activities, and so it was a voluntary thing to be done and not something where nobody had asked them to do this. And I think one of the big things which the owners have been telling me is that let us measure it. Okay, once we know where we stand, then we can start looking at how we can improve. Okay, and I'll also tell you, end of the day, whatever we do, if time has gone in, money has gone in, people have put in their efforts, there has to be a business outcome. There has to be a logic to what has been done and how to take advantage of it. So I'll touch upon that as well. So the way this project started was around, this has taken a total of around 6 months from start to finish. This project has been closed as of 2 weeks back. It's gone live. So it started with data template release. So there was a full list of data templates which were made. And so this was done virtually. So we have tried to cut down the cost as well as our own carbon footprints by doing things virtually. So there was a conference calls organized where people were first given an idea of what this project is about and why it should be done, etc., etc. Data templates were sent out in advance, because so that you don't suddenly land up somewhere and say that, okay, guys, I want this information. So we made sure that we sent these data templates at least 4 weeks in advance. We gave people time, and we had a number where people could call in, ask questions of what this data means, why it is required, blah, blah, blah. So there is a connect, and there is, people are not at zero, but they come to a 25-30% level on the project requirements. And, we all knew that these are small companies, one guy doing multiple things anyway. So, bandwidth is always going to be less. And that was one of the reasons why we released these data templates beforehand. And then we had training programs. So training programs were organized at Okhla, Noida, Gurgaon, Faridabad. And so these are very well attended. And after that, there were factory visits to really validate that data, to see various things. And these factory visits also involved, because these factories were visited by people who are doing this kind of work. So we said, why do just carbon footprint? But if there are first pass certain items where we can tell the management that doing these kinds of changes, you could actually reduce your electricity consumption and things like that, or rework a few things. So those things were done. There was a CDP approved tool. So CDP stands for Carbon Disclosure Project. You will hear more from my friend here, Damandeep. So there was a tool used called Our Impacts. And the reason for the tool was that we didn't want to give them an Excel sheet, which potentially could get outdated next year. Okay. So if there is a tool and it is supported by a global body like CDP, and you train the people, so basically you have built the capacity and they don't need us anymore. So at least those who have done it, I'm hoping that, and we have made a good training manual and stuff like that. So next year they can do it on their own. They really don't need any more help. And then quality assurance, because, you know, a few other clients where we have worked, because people are overworked, there are manual errors and mistaken data which is given. So quality assurance forms a very big part of, because, you know, you don't want to get challenged on your footprints if you give it to your customer and he sends a third-party auditor. You really want to make sure that you have all the right backups, it's auditable, it's transparent, and quality assurance is assured. So that took a very long time, by the way. That was the longest period, so even more than training. Quality assurance took a lot of time because getting all those documents, travel details, tickets, hotel stays, electricity bills in different states, the way of calculation was different. So it was a bit of, so you know, that is an important step which those who are going to do it in future should be aware of. So I think, you know, the other big thing is we wanted to build capacities. You know, as a principal, at least the company that I am associated with, we decided we will try not to go to the big ones. You know, the big ones means large companies who can have departments full of people, and, you know, they have capacities to do it on their own. So they really don't need any help. But I think our target is to, you know, connect all these SMEs and bring them up to speed on global standards. So I think the biggest contribution that we have done towards this project is we have built capacity here. Okay, now coming to, you know, what the future roadmap should be. Now that this is done, what next? You know, how do these people benefit of whatever they have done? And in the last 2 days that I've been here, you know, a few owners have actually come and said that, okay, I want to know where do I stand? How bad am I? Can we improve? And, you know, how do I take advantage of the fact that, you know, we have put in so much of effort to do this? You know, what next? So I think two things. One is obviously looking at energy and how to lower it. I think that's a no-brainer, so I'm not really, you know, harping about it. But I think there has to be a lot of, you know, like Bruce has been mentioning on that dinner pre-event and even yesterday, that we are very bad at marketing ourselves. Okay, so I think we could potentially change that by, you know, we just go there, talk about price, cost, time to delivery. You know, can we talk of something else which maybe, you know, the Bangladeshis cannot, or, you know, the Cambodians don't understand yet, or the Chinese have a problem being so transparent? You know, can we take advantage of those situations? So I think this is not the only thing, but we have made a beginning. I think if we have done this for carbon, we should do this for water. And we should go to the market and, you know, start talking about it. So we at least have one more talking point other than just cost, quality, and time to the market. So, you know, for those of you who don't know this is available on the Walmart website. You know, they specifically ask questions. So there's question number 1, 2, 3, 4, which is, you know, have you measured and taken steps to reduce your corporate greenhouse gas emissions? So this was released, I think, 4 years back. Initially, it was for Tier 1 suppliers in US and Canada. They then made it into Latin America, then Europe, and I think as of January of this year, I understand a few large suppliers to Walmart have also got this questionnaire in India. So, you know, are you reporting it to Carbon Disclosure Product, yes or no? What are your total annual, you know, so they are asking very specific questions there. So this is just the beginning. The other thing is, you know, China, like, you know, they will do things very fast, and they are, you know, trying to do quite a few things because they have got a very bad name around it, and there's been a lot of social issues associated with what has gone wrong. So that's one. Other is units in Bangladesh. You know, we've been hearing about it. So this is all from public forum. You know, this is not my data. This is all available, and So you really don't see any of this from the Indian companies publicly. I really don't see it. So I think what I wanted to stress is, use this as a clear win-win strategy. So one is use this data to look at your energy costs and things like that. I think there's one word there, reputational enhancement. How do you do that is a little bit of a complex thing, but you could do it. You report to CDP, you report to WRI, GRI. Get those logos, use that in your collaterals. There is a market in France, there's a market in California, where there are people willing to pay more for premium, guaranteed, ethically manufactured stuff. So, try to get hold of that market. So, which links into the second point, which is increased brand image. So, OGTC should go on overdrive advertising what they have done. Small units. So it's a classic story. That they could build on it. Small units, generating employment, going green, and go and market this somewhere. Early mover advantage. Nobody has done it, and I'm sure that it won't remain forever. So yesterday Mr. Shaktivel was saying, can we do this for Tirupur or some others like other clusters as well. So while you have this advantage for the next 6, 8 months, 12 months, take full advantage of it. Open new markets. I think Bruce made a very valid point. Buyers come here thinking, okay, I'll get shirts in Bombay, I'll get this here and hosiery in the south, and that's it. They don't really look at anything else. And we have also not gone. So he said that there is not a single Indian office of an exporter in Southern California, so on the West Coast, which was very surprising. And the Chinese have got 700 offices there. So I think there's a great opportunity to on that open new markets thing where you could potentially do that. And obviously, no employee wants to work for a company which knowingly that we are not doing the right thing. So that's another thing. So I think that's pretty much what I wanted to cover, and I hope you get a appreciation of this project that was done here. Thank you.
If you'd like to we can have question and answer straight after the talk, because otherwise we'll get mixed up. Just the next speaker to come. Would you like to ask him any question? I think he's given a wonderful the whole background of why it is needed and how we are going about it. It's very, very important. As I said, there is a social responsibility which is almost nil in India, but gradually it will be a legal responsibility. I've been associated with environment in industry, and I know that earlier we used to throw the water just on the lane. Gradually people realized, no, it is not done because of the danda of the government. Then the boiler used to be emitting all the carbon straight to the atmosphere, but now they've got all those instruments where the carbon emission is within limits. And same thing with the hazardous waste. Couple of years back, very, very dangerous, poisonous stuff was lying around. But now in Faridabad, we have a site where all this hazardous waste has to be stored. So at the moment, it's not there. But gradually, all this will become legal. And before it becomes legal, if we are prepared, then it's much easier for us to handle. Yes. And I think most important is that we have to learn that what we are living for our children. Unless we clean up the atmosphere and the environment, our children are going to have problems. All these diseases which are coming up is the outcome of all negligence which the industry is doing. I'm an industrialist, but still I feel that we are not doing enough to control the pollution and the steps which he has said, and it is very good because you see a certain amount of expertise which is missing in the small scale industry. When it is provided for, certain amount of financial support is provided for, it becomes easier for the industry to handle it. Thank you very much for a wonderful this thing. And please.
Who's the certifying body for this, and what will be the cost?
Okay, so the reason that tool was used is to get rid of having a third-party certification requirement. Okay, so CDP comes out with so there is a method that needs to be followed, and it has a assurance system. The tool has an assurance system. So where after, the data has been put in by the respective units, we need to then go back to the methodology which has been defined and make sure that all the backup documents are there. So, if somebody puts in that we have used this much electricity, I need all those years electricity consumption bills from the respective utility provider. If you have used DG set, then I need the invoices of the amount of diesel that was used. If you say that, your people traveled X, Y, Z, I need those invoices and, things of the travel, of hotel bills, everything. So all that assurance gets done. And this tool, because it is approved and accredited by the world bodies, you really don't need a third-party certification. Typically, it is most of the times this should be more than enough. The only reason where I might, there might be some requirement is where some premium customer segment, private labels, might come to you and say that, can you get this verified by, say, a DNV or SGS or somebody else. So that, apart from that, I don't see why at the foreseeable future you should require that if you're using the right tools and the right methods to do it.
How do we plan to involve the suppliers? I think other than garment industry, the main processing is the main problem area for environment. So first step is garment.
Yes.
Then next step, when do we have to involve them? Put them in the loop.
Sure.
Actually, I was earlier, I had a dyeing and printing unit in Faridabad, so I'm very, very familiar. Which company are you representing?
So I'm from a college, GIT college.
I see. Actually, that is the most unorganized industry at least in Faridabad and in whole of North, because they are small units. You can, with small investment, you can start this thing, and they're scattered all over the place. Actually, we have been trying, and individually, most of them try to escape the responsibility of doing it till they are forced to do it. But we have been requesting the government of Haryana to provide a cluster. Just like this cluster, it is only a cluster of mind, not a cluster of proximity. But there in DLF itself in Faridabad, there are about 40-50 units, and each one is having a problem. They discharge their liquid without, if they can help it, without any treatment, etc. And we've been trying to impress upon the government to have a common treatment plant, because that is the solution to the small-scale industry. There is an electroplating industry in Faridabad where they have provided a complete sector and a common treatment plant. A similar requirement is needed for the textile process, and I agree with you that more than the garment exporter, it is the processing industry which needs all that. And I think OGT is not concerned with this, but some other organization has to come up and do that.
Sir, processing is a part of garment.
Yeah, it is, sir, but the question is, I agree with you, sir, it is a very, very important part of it, but unfortunate part is that they do not have a coherent organization which can take up their case.
If your fabric is coming from an unapproved processing house, you cannot say that I am greenhouse faster. You have to have a...
No, you are right, sir, but at the moment it is not, any kind.
I'm saying just like REACH, which came in. So that was pertaining to printing and dyeing. See, most of the factories nowadays, being an exporter, right? So wherever you get your printing and dyeing done, so it has to be certified, right?
Can
No, it's okay, I'm audible, right?
Okay.
So same will be the case with this also, for printing also, because it has to go down. Because they are subcontractors, right?
Yeah.
If we are subcontracting anything, it has to be certified. So it is in the pipeline.
You're right. So it is a process. First is to do this itself was, to get all the people together and to make them listen and to do this project. So I think what you have said, sir, is correct. So at some point in time, it will happen.
And as he explained, the most important thing is the earlier realization.
Correct.
The awareness and realization is the first step. When people, it gets into their mind that this is needed. I think then people do get together and work out a plan
And sometime, I think, you were telling me about Gujarat.
Yeah.
Now, Gujarat is one state, Gujarat is one state where the government is actively supporting all these projects. Both in terms of project, in terms of facilities, in terms of other things. So if similar pressure, unfortunately, nothing, I don't want to talk politics, but in Haryana, some of the other farmers are the basic focus of the government. Industry is not. And out of the industry, it is the auto industry which is taking the more important thing. Though textile industry is providing a big chunk of employment. So in case you can get together and impress upon the government to give some sort of support, I think our first is to have a platform where they can get together and work it out. So I fully agree with you that processing industry has to come next and organize this thing.
But it will be like a organic cotton.
Mm-hmm.
Like you buy cotton from a certified people,
Yeah.
certified processor. And then you have to only do the storing part.
Yeah.
If you are a manufacturer. The same way this will work.
Very good. As you are aware, earlier it used to be ozo-free. It used to be, that every type of dye was being used, and the garment was not ozo-free. Then those countries insisted that the garment has to be ozo-free. So if it is not, there is a big penalty. The result is that gradually people have come up and they're using the right material, right chemicals. Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. I think there are one or two people wanted to ask.
Okay, please.
Right now, about the OGTC project that I'm talking about, we just had the measurement.
Yeah.
Survey and measuring things. Is there, I know it's very short time limit that the project has just started, but is there any initiative that, OGTC has taken which we can report to this forum so that that's a, takeaway from others also, how we can, sort of reduce the emission? Is there any...
Yes. So, like I said, after the factory visits, there is a separate report which is going to go out to all the units, giving ideas of how they could actually reduce their energy consumption and those kinds of things. However, if you want to get into very specific, then, so the first part of the project is to do the measurements, and we are going to be doing a benchmarking exercise where at least within these units, they know where they stand. It will be anonymous. Obviously, you will never be able to see the others' names, but that is going to come out through the right channel to individual units very soon. And yes, those recommendations are also going to be coming out. I think they have already been sent, so another 1 or 2 days next week you should be.
Can I add something to it? You see, in India we have very many problems. For example, measurement, actual measurement, you will never get. There are all so many hidden expenses which the industry is showing, and they are afraid that if I show this, probably the implication will be the excise people will come, or the sale tax people will come, or even the pollution control people will come. कि पानी तो इतना निकाल रहे हो, हमको इतना दिखाते हो. So, I think a stage has to come where the whole country, the government as well as the private agency have to work in conjunction to see that the basic factor is achieved and we have the pollution-free country. I'm glad that you got all this information correctly.
No, it was a very tough exercise, sir. Yeah.
I have a question regarding the benchmarking part which you talked about.
Yeah.
Can you throw some light on what factors would that benchmarking be done? Because every factory would
Yeah. So that's a very good question. I think typically what we'll do is there'll be 4 or 5 parameters which we call as KPIs. So it could be on total carbon footprint divided by the total square feet of a factory area. It could be divided by the total revenue. It could be divided by total product in terms of tonnage or units of products that are produced, and in terms of number of people employed. So these are the various KPIs which will be there, and then based on that, one could figure out where he stands. I think one last, yeah.
My question is that how CTP boundary is defined? As Mr. Vasu said, in terms of collecting the data is not easy. People will not be upfront to share the information. This will affect directly their business information.
Yes.
How tough it was, or what was your experience on this?
Well,
Defining it precisely with the boundary direction of your factory.
Yeah. I think, what we did is, I think it's very important to understand then how this project started. So what we did is we first sent the data template. So the people at least knew, that there is going to be a new animal in this factory now who's going to be asking for this.
What is a data template?
Data template means it's just a form. So it's a list of forms, questionnaires, which need to be filled in. Okay, and then we go to the factory and then we do, checking and stuff like that. So one is that. Second is we did those one-day session where we called in all the owners of the participating units. And we told them that, this is what will be required to do this. And so this was a very top-driven project. So unless it is very top-driven project, it's very difficult to collect data. Because there is no incentive for the person below to really participate in the project.
Because we have the same problem in the collection data for the power sector.
Correct.
When you get to the top level, we didn't take top level approach, even with the municipal power, they don't get the data.
Yeah.
Because none of the large power plants, they don't want to report their coal emissions, for example.
You're right. So it is, I worked for 17, 18 years in various industries. So you need to, talk to people, communicate, like today what Gunish said, the power of logic sometimes works a lot. So at least I am a firm believer, if you really can explain it to people why it is needed and how it will help, it takes some perseverance and then you get the data. It was not easy, but we got it.
But those data is the main source for
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Sure.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, thanks.
Please give a big applause to.
I think
very nice.
I would like an applause to be given to the units who participate in this project. I think it's not everybody does that.